in New Delhi. 2 weeks after India significantly upgraded its defense ties with the United States through Comcasa, the Communication Capability and Security Agreement, the Modi government has cleared the way for one of the biggest purchases from Russia worth of $2.2 billion of frigate deals. The agreement, which will allow India to procure from Russia 4 new warships for the Navy, will be signed during a summit between President Vladimir Putin and Prime Minister of India Mr. Narendra Modi in the capital in October. The efforts are on the add the finishing touches to contours of the deal. The long-pending deals to procure Project 11356 of the Advanced Talwar-class frigates will involve building 2 of the ships at the Goa shipyard, while the rest will be bought directly from Russia's Cant shipyard. The sources have told Economic Times that the clearance procedures before the signing is in the final stage and that India could make payments through the rupee-ruble route. As reported by the Economic Times, the financial sanction by the US has complicated purchases of the weapons from Moscow, as Indian banks are unable to transfer money to the defense companies in Russia. An alternative arrangement to pay in Indian rupee instead of standard US dollars is being worked out to the party deals with the matter. The deal is being processed as a 2+2 scheme where the technology will be transferred to the Goa shipyard to construct 2 of the frigates from scratch. The other 2 will be delivered faster, possibly within 2 years, as the result, as the hulls of the ship have already been fabricated for the Russian Navy, ordered that got stalled following for the Ukraine crisis. The ship has been designed to work with Ukraine-made gas turbines. While there were initial discussions to involve the Indian private sector to build 2 of the ships domestically, the government took a decision to nominate the state-owned Goa shipyard as it had spare capacity at hand. The Indian-made warships are expected to cost 30 to 50% more than the direct Russian import due to the cost of building infrastructure and transfer of technology. India and Russia had signed an intergovernmental agreement to proceed with the deal in October 2016, but the price negotiations and technical consultations, which also involved the Indian shipyard, delayed the final clearance, which could be one of the big takeaways from Modi to Putin summit that is scheduled to take place in Delhi on October 5, 2018. India already operates 6 of the Talwar-class frigates, but these 4 to be ordered will be more advanced versions. The battleships are to be fitted with BrahMos missile system and will have significant changes from the older ships, as the Navy will have several Indian-made equipment on board, including the sensors and the communications. They will add to India's muscles in the Indian Ocean region to counter China and Pakistan. Among the immediate priorities for the Navy are the minesweepers and the multi-role helicopters that can be deployed on the warships. So what do you think of India clears $2.2 billion of frigate deals with Russia, while US is not happy with having Russian-made and Russian defense equipment to be bought to India? Suresh Prabhu, the Commerce and Industry Minister of India, led the Indian delegation at St. Petersburg International Economic Forum on May 25th and 24th to initiate an economic summit as follow-up of the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India to Sochi for an informal summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The 2 countries also explored the possibility of joint ventures which should participate in tender in 3rd countries. The minister during his engagement invited the various ministers, governors and CEOs to bring a delegation of top 100 CEOs to visit India for a summit and the meeting, with government officials and Indian CEOs where sector-specific industry would meet each other to discuss, build contacts to create sustained engagements. As India and Russia are getting so much closer and getting into economic trades and bilateral ties, US is getting eager and Trump is a little bit afraid or shocked to see India and Russia getting closer than US in relationship on defense and economy. The minister met 5 Russian ministers and several top business leaders representing railways, communication and media, fertilizers and startups. During the various meetings, the both sides appreciated and noted the fact that India-Russia trade has increased considerably, but was also still less the potential. The thrust of the conversation was creating and executing a plan for increased India-Russian trade economic cooperation. Towards this end, logistics, the infrastructures, the knowledge and based economics, diamonds and golds were highlighted as the important focus areas. In the infrastructure sector, the status of joint study with Russian railways and the high-speed railway line between Nagpur and Secunderabad was discussed. The Indian minister also highlighted the need to set up joint ventures which should participate in tender in third countries. The knowledge-based sectors like paramedicals, innovative industries, digital economies were discussed as the target areas of joint cooperations, with Russian Deputy Prime Minister and Indian ministers highlighting the need for the cooperation and creating a win-win plan in the areas of gold, diamond, timber, and other natural resources. The visit also discussed the creation of mechanisms to find the complementaries and remove barriers between the economies of the two countries. The Commerce and the Industry Minister of India and the Minister of Economic Development discussed the articulations of the Joint Action Plan on increased Russian economic cooperation and to submit the findings of report before the annual summit between the Prime Minister of India and the Russian President later this year. The establishment of a strategic economic dialogue between the Niti Aayog on the Indian side and the Ministry of Economic Development on the Russian side, where experts from both sides would meet and discuss the economic issues, which would have its first meeting later this year, was discussed. Expediting the EIUE, the India FTA negotiations was also underlined. The Indian Commerce and the Industry Minister and the Russian Minister of Transport agreed that the operations, the International North-South Transport Corridor, would propel trade between the two countries to new height by providing a faster, more viable trade route, therefore should be a priority for the both. So what do you think of India and Russia's close economic ties and mega economic summit, which will trigger US ties with India to unwilled relations or reliable relations? As the US steps up the heat on Russia through sanctions and the strikes on Syria, the message from Washington to New Delhi is equally clear that the countries like India should start looking at US differently. Ahead of the key strategic partnerships of energy dialogue, the US Under Secretary of Energy Mark Menezes told the Economic Times that it's important for the countries like India to not let the Russia and the China gain over the US in these areas. And he said, "I think India should start looking in the direction of the United States. Look at us, look at what we are offering, and then choose us over other countries. I'm not saying it will happen overnight, but start looking in our direction at least." When asked on the concerns that the US may be less cost-effective to Russia and China, he said, "If the countries begin to choose for the economic reasons only to go to the countries like China and Russia, which frankly do not share the values of democracy, free markets, religious tolerance, I would suggest we need to think very carefully." The US, Menezes emphasized, offers a more reliable options now that it's a net export of oil and natural gas. This allows the countries which shares our values to choose between the countries that can threaten to cut off supply or exert because you are dependent on them. The US is keen. India signals its strategic inclinations towards the US in the energy sector, adding that the Trump administration will ensure Westinghouse builds new nuclear reactor in India. And he claims, "Be careful of those countries which come in and say the price should be determinative factor which when you enter into a co-partnership with them. We want that when the countries like India, with whom we have shared values, look for nuclear partners, they want to be with countries like US." Menezes also told to the Economic Times that he was convinced on the Westinghouse bounce back from its economic troubles to build reactors in India. We think Westinghouse will be very strong coming out of the bankruptcy. We are very supportive of their technology and capability to build their 6 reactors here in India. Bankruptcy will be no longer an issue. He went on to add the US attaches significant importance to India's membership request to the nuclear supplier group. We are pledged that we will look critically at any effort to impose unreasonable restrictions to their membership. So what do you think of US or the United States in nearly begging for India to not to go to Russia and China, instead it has to come to US for all its needs? Is it the right direction to go only towards one country with a democracy, or it's very good safe for India to go to democratic, secularistic and communist countries to have a spreaded equal things to all the countries so that India will be safe on all the countries? Post your comments below, and if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and follow us in social networks and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. This is WEC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.